All right, in this video we're going to talk and introduce the concept of a chord with respect to scales as well. It's going to be related back to scales. So a chord, the definition of a chord generally is 3 or more notes played together that make up a chord. There is an exception to that, of course, especially for you guitarists out there. There's a thing called a power chord, which is used a lot in rock guitar, which only has 2 notes in it. So, you know, there's an example of a chord, I guess, that only has 2 notes in it. But generally speaking, and certainly with what we're doing, a chord is going to be a 3-note thing that we play together. You can get much more complicated chords that have 6, 7 notes in it. We're not going to be worrying about that just yet. We're just going to talk about a basic 3-note chord, which is often referred to as a triad. Obviously the prefix tri meaning 3, so a triad. So that's what we're going to talk about today, chords. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to play them on the keyboard as well. So first of all, I've got a couple of scales here. So we should all know what this scale here is. Of course, it's the easiest scale. It is C major. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn each of the notes in C major into a chord. And it's very simple. You just got to follow a pattern. And the pattern is, if you have a C, or if you have a note on a line, then the next note in the chord is going to be the next note on the next line. I'll show you what I mean. So we have C there, so we just add the next line note and the next line note, and there is a chord. That is the C chord. Okay? So you just got to follow that pattern. We can do that to every single note in the C major scale. So the next one is in a space, it's a D note. So we just go to the next space, we go to the next space. That is a chord. I'll come back to what type of chord that is in a tick. Okay, we just follow the same pattern. If it's on a line, we just add 2 more line notes. If it's in a space, we add the spaces. I'll keep going, okay? It's very simple. So if I ever ask you to do this, it's nice and easy. It's just following a pattern, okay? So now we have not the C major scale, we have the C major scale in chords, okay? Unfortunately, I don't have a keyboard plugged in. If I did, I'd play it for you. You could hear how it sounds. I will definitely show you how to play it, but you won't be able to hear what it sounds. I might play it on the guitar. It is a bit different though. But anyway, that is the C major scale in chords. Now, of course, the first chord here is C. But they're not all going to be major chords. They're going to be different types of chords. Okay? And so we'll talk about that. But before I do, here's a question. What's the difference between a C chord and a C major chord? Okay, so you might have come across chords on the internet, or like on a chord chart from there's lots of tab sites that say, oh, these are the chords to Brown Eyed Girl, something like that. C, G, A minor, whatever it is. So what's the difference between a C chord and a C major chord? Well, it's a bit of a trick question. Nothing. Okay? But it gets everyone, almost everyone. Everyone gets confused by that question. It is a bit of a trick question. So when you have chords written down, like I've written here, C, that is the C chord, if it's just a letter name, it is presumed that it is a major chord. So the C chord is C major. They are the same thing. If it's a minor chord, it will say minor. And minor is often depicted by the small m. Okay? So, bit of a trick question. There's no difference between C and C major. If it's just a letter on its own like that, it is assumed that it is a major chord. Okay? So we don't say, okay, the chords to this song are going to be C major, G major, A minor, F major. You would generally say C, G, A minor, F. Everyone knows that C, G, and F are major chords. Okay? Anyway, let's keep moving. There is a certain order of the types of chords. So I'm just going to write them down. The next one is D minor. The next one after that is E minor. F, G, they're major chords, of course. We then have A minor. I'm going to come back to that one. And then C at the top. The 7th chord in the major scale is a little different. So far we've had only major and minor chords. Anyone know what the seventh one is? It's a diminished chord, which we depict with a little circle. Okay? So it's a different type of chord to major and minor. Okay, so we have C major, or just C, I'm going to say C. C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and then we go back to C. Okay, so I might play that on the guitar. It won't sound exactly sort of what I've written, but just so you can hear what those chords sound like. So we have C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished. Ooh, how am I going to play this? Sounds a bit weird. I'll play it up the octave. Bit of an unusual sounding chord, and then back to C. My guitar's a little out of tune. My apologies for that. Should have tuned it up before I started. So that is the C major scale written out in chords. Now, these are often referred to, especially when we write it out like this, we often use a different type of notation for this, and it's Roman numerals. Hopefully you've done Roman numerals back in school, but these are often referred and talked about with Roman numerals. So I'm just going to add those in, and hopefully you'll know what these are. Okay, so as I said, hopefully you know what they are. So we have 1, 2, chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7, and we don't use chord 8. We go back to 1. Okay, so we don't refer to it as an 8 chord. We just call it 1. Okay? And you'll notice some of these are in capitals and some of them are in lowercase. So what do we think the difference between a capital and a lowercase Roman numeral is? If you look up, it'll give you a bit of a hint. So major and minor. Okay, a uppercase Roman numeral tells it's a major chord. So chord 1 is major. Chord 2 is minor because it's lowercase. Chord 3 is minor. Chord 4 is major. Chord 5 is major. Chord 6 is minor. And this, of course, is diminished. Now, you notice on a diminished chord, the 7 chord, it uses lowercase and a circle. It uses lowercase because a diminished chord is quite closely related to a minor chord. It is more like a minor chord than a major chord. So they use the lowercase. It makes sense to use the lowercase. So we often refer to the chords in a scale as Roman numerals. So I might say, actually, one area where you may have heard of this, and is the Axis of Awesome video, where they talk about a really common chord progression in pop music. Lots of people have seen this video. If you haven't, just YouTube it, Axis of Awesome. I think if you YouTube that, it'll come up. And the chords that they refer to are 1, 5, 6, 4. So there are literally hundreds, probably thousands of pop songs that use the chord progression of 1, 5, 6, 4. So there's an example of where they've used the Roman numeral terminology. So what would be chord 1, 5, 6, 4? Well, it would be chord, in this particular key, in C, it would be C is chord 1, chord 5 is G, chord 6 is A minor, chord 4 is F. I'm going to play you those 4 chords so you can hear it, and you'll hear that it'll sound very familiar, this chord progression. 1, 5, 6, 4. C, G, A minor, F. There are thousands of songs that use those. Let me play a couple of them. I'm Yours. I'm Yours by Jason Mraz uses 1, 5, 6, 4. A lot of Ed Sheeran songs use 1, 5, 6, 4. A lot of even songs that aren't even pop songs, you know, different styles, we use 1, 5, 6, 4. Two are coming to mind. If you watch The Axis of Awesome, they literally go through 50 songs that all use 1, 5, 6, 4. Sometimes they'll start at 6, 4, 1, 5, but same sort of thing. It's a great video to watch. Okay, let's keep moving now. So that's chords. So why bother with the Roman numerals? The main reason is that it allows us to talk about the chord progressions, like we just spoke about. Also, it allows us not to be associated with just one key. So we can talk about other keys. So it might be 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of C major, like we just did, and I just played. But it could be 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of G major, which we're about to go through. And 1, 5, so here's a question for you. What is 1, 5, 6, 4 in G major? Pause the video if you want to see if you can work it out, but it is G, D, E minor, C. When I come around, right, Green Day. Okay, that is 1, 5, 6, 4 in G major. G, D, E minor, C. But let's work it out anyway. Well, let's go through the process. Okay, and we follow the exact same thing of writing out the chords here. You'll notice I've written G major starting quite low. It just makes it easier, but it is still G major, even though you might not have seen it like that. We're just starting with a lower G, okay? So that is G down there. So we just follow the same. I'm going to do it nice and quickly. The same thing. If it's on a line, you add 2 more line notes. If it's on a space, you add 2 more space notes. Okay? And these Roman numerals apply to both, right? That is going to be chord 1 in G major, chord 2, 3, 4, 6, etc. So let's write in what the chords are called. So as I said before, the order is always the same. You can apply this to any major scale. C sharp major, G flat major. It's always going to be this order of chords. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to major. So let's go through it. So the first one, now we're in G major, is going to be G, A minor, B minor, C, okay, it's a major chord, D, E minor. I'm going to come back to the 7th one, and then we come back to G. I've skipped the 7th one. What do you think the 7th chord is going to be in G major? It's a little bit trickier, this one. You might be thinking, oh, that'll be F diminished. Or is it F diminished? No, it's not. It, of course, is F sharp diminished because of our key signature. Okay, so that can be a little bit of a trick up there. You always have to take the key signature into account. So that is F sharp diminished. Circle is the notation for diminished. Okay, so that is the chords of a G major scale: G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp diminished, back to G, and the Roman numerals. So hopefully that all makes sense. But yeah, the Roman numerals gets used quite a lot, and we will talk about Roman numeral chords. So just to finish off this video, I might ask a few little questions. Here's a little test for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a key, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what chord 5 is, for instance, in a particular key. So I'll do the first one for you. So if I say, okay, we're in the key of A, what is chord 5 in the key of A major? So you just count up. A, B, C, D, E. Chord 5 in A major is E major. And we know it's E major because chord 5 is a major chord. Okay, I'll do one more, and then I'll see if you can just in this video answer a few of them. So let's do another one. Let's do chord 4 in. Let's do chord 4 in. Mine's going blank. B major. Okay. So we start with B is 1. B, C, D, E. Chord 4 in B major is E major. So here you go. I'm going to ask you a few. Let's go. You can just pause. I won't sort of wait for you to answer. You can just pause the video before you answer, and then I'll give the answer. So let's go F major, chord 5. What is chord 5 in F major. You can pause the video now if you want, but I'm going to give the answer. So F major, if F is 1, F, G, A, B, C, C major. Let's do a trickier one. Let's do D major, chord 6. So what is chord 6 in D major? Pause the video now if you want to work it out. I'm about to give the answer. So we count up 6. D, F, G, A. Let's try that again. Don't do it like that. D, E, F, G, A, B. B is the 6th note of D major. But is it, what kind of chord is it? Chord 6, a little trickier this one, is a minor chord. So it's actually B minor. Chord 6 of D major is B minor. A little trickier there. Cool. Hopefully you went okay with those examples, and hopefully you understood how we create chords from a major scale. In terms of just creating the chords, very simple. You just add in those extra notes. Very basic. But then we went through and analysed what each of those chords are, and then we spoke about the Roman numerals.